Outer Orange.
Hello gamers, card gamers, welcome back to another video. Hope you're having a wonderful day today. This is not necessarily a deck profile, this is more of an analysis on Zorga and kind of like what the set 4 has brought to Zorga, what we can do, and kind of my deck, like my current brainstorming of the deck and sort of what you can do with a Zorga deck. We're gonna talk about the analysis, kind of the deck, like what set 4 Zorga is like, and then we're gonna go into the deck here in a little bit. Zorga got quite a bit of stuff. It got a lot of new stuff that's actually really helpful to Zorga, and I'm not gonna lie, I do want to apologize. I didn't create a set 3 anything for Zorga because honestly there was really nothing to create. I know some people disagree with me, and you know, they'll say, oh well, there was the chef and then there's the butcher and you have like this binding thing you can do, but to me I wasn't really enjoying the deck and there was nothing really there that screamed, yeah, I could probably go pretty far with this. If anything, I felt quite the opposite, and then once I discovered Cardfight, I found that deck to just be way more consistent, so I just kind of took a break from Zorga and kind of jumped on some other decks for the time being. But now we're kind of entering that area where I'm feeling that the Zorga copium again, and I'm really liking what we got, so we're gonna talk about it. Zorga quite a few new orders. We got the Wells Melt in the Sound of Rain, which is a pretty decent order. It kind of forces it's what I like to call a kind of costless order. I actually run a lot of costless orders just because I think they're amazing. But pretty much the order just literally says your opponent chooses a rear guard and retires it, and then you call something the same grade that they retired. It's free. Fine Drink of Embellishment for Sins. This is a defensive blitz order, which literally says you Soul Blast, you gain, and you draw a card, and then you get 5k for every different order that you have in your bind and in your drop. Another very amazing card. This card can get very beefy, can go around guard restricts, can deal with really high numbers. And then Zorga also got some new units and stuff. Now some are kind of like good and some are kind of decent, but one I want to highlight is the Sea Breeze Abduction. This is something Superior Sage and Slate, wow, just realized those are the triple S's from the Zorga cult have been talking a lot about this card. I do agree, it's a very good card. It has an on-hit on it. I know on-hits kind of sound like kind of sus. I agree, on-hits are kind of sus. However, the way the deck works is you usually have some kind of attack that will go through, and usually if you get these cards out, it just works. And honestly, the card literally just exists and it never goes off the field. And there's actually a lot of cards that have the same skill, but they either have a counterblast or you have to retire it, you have to do something, but this card just stays on the field, so you can keep pressuring your opponent with these same on-hit. So you only need one to hit to kind of really make this card start accelerating. It literally binds something for you and you get a card back to hand, so you can activate Pot of Greed earlier. There's the new dragon, the Roaming Prison Dragon, which is literally the beef stick now, something that is also very free and you can just use it and do kind of stuff with it. We also got Gather Upon Ye, which literally says discard in order to get a triple drive. Also very free, you just have to discard something for it, and it has to be in order, but it's not as bad as it seems. We got all these new cards, but what can you do with them? So you kind of have like two approaches now to Zorga. You can go super aggro, where you literally just drop your Persona Rides and just go as aggro as possible, then having the Roaming Prison Dragons constantly active every single turn and just beating your opponent down. But there's actually option 2, which is Control Zorga, and I'm not talking about control like, oh, retired, oh, this and that. I'm talking about literally Control Zorga. Your opponent throws all this stuff at you and you just don't care. You have a stopping point, you have a way to deal with it, you can retire them, you can do all this and that, you have a way out every single time. And then aside from, you know, breaking, the deck actually functions pretty well in the control style. You pretty much have a kind of like you have a game plan from start to finish. You're thinking like 2-3 turns ahead, and you pretty much have an end goal every single time, aside from, you know, don't deck out and all that stuff. And that's kind of the deck that I'm going to be talking about today. Look at what I have cooked up so far and why I made these choices and kind of what they are doing for the deck and all that stuff. I call it my costless control deck, and you can call it whatever you want, but let's go ahead and look at the cards. Alright, so I am back. Hello. FYI, if you do follow my Twitch, I already actually discussed pretty much this very similar deck on stream already, so if you want earlier access, usually on Twitch, I'll discuss these things a little bit sooner before I make a whole video on it. But regardless, you could be here, you could be on my Twitch, you can do whatever you want as long as you're enjoying the content and having a good time with me. That's all that matters. But let's go ahead and talk about it. I have all my stuff here. I got the ride line. I'm going to try and go through these a little fast because, like I said, this isn't a deck profile. This is just kind of more of an analysis, more of a discussion of why I run these. We're going to talk about the ride line first. You have your 0, which is just the regular, and then you have your Ranker Chain. Nothing has changed here. This lets you Soul Blast, draw 2, discard 1 order, or if you don't have an order, you discard 2 cards. And then we have the Husk Dragon, which just lets you bring an order back to hand when it's placed on ban. And then we have Zorga, which is your Alchemagic. I currently run 3 Personas. I'm actually tempted to cut one back for potentially another dragon or something else. I haven't really made a decision yet with this, but currently right now we are running the 3 Zorgas, and then after that card. This is the roaming prison dragon. This is the dragon that says if you play a normal order, you can call this card out for free. By the way, there's no cost. You get to choose one of the abilities that it has, which is 10k order crits. If you alchemagic, you get to choose both, and pretty much it becomes a 15k attacker with a critical trigger on it for pretty much every single time you call it out. So every time you alchemagic, you can pop out 2 if they're in your drop, and you can just keep doing that, and it's just amazing the things you can do. I would recommend pushing this to 4. I currently have it at 3 because of deck space issues. I may make one of my Zorgas one of these just because of how useful this is. I may make this into something else. I haven't made a decision yet, but that's pretty much the grade 3s. And then grade 2s are really fast and easy. It's just 4 Shadow Cloak. Shadow Cloak carries pretty hard, especially if you're starting to have issues with your drop zone. Usually your hand will be fine on orders, funnily enough, but your drop zone may not be, and you want to make sure you alchemagic, so you want to be very careful and think ahead of what you want to do. Let's go into the grade 1s. So the grade 1s, I'm currently running 3 perfect guards because I'm spooky. I really want to make place for my game plan, so I'm actually running 3. I can bounce it back with the dog, and I just kind of, let me put it over here. I can bounce it back with the dog. I haven't really had too many issues with this yet. So I run 3 Rogue Headhunter. As I mentioned about costless Zorga, I really have no issues with Counterblast. I think the only issue I may come across is Prison, but even then, like, I have been in situations where I have like 5 open Counterblasts. I'm not really using them, so I don't think it'll be too much of a problem, but just in case, I still run this in case I just need to negate it, because usually I'll call this out, I'll negate my own Counterblast, and then I'm fine, because that's pretty much what this does. I also just like the fact that it's a 13k attacker. Never really a bad thing. And then here's the abduction that I've been talking about, or this is Seabreeze abduction, or Vices as some people call it. Here it is. This is the card they always want to put behind. Now you notice I'm running 2. Most decks are running 3. The reason why is because some opponents will not let this hit at all, no matter the cost of what's happening. And if that's the case, I run 1 Karen Processing, which is, as I just call it, Chef or Butcher, whatever you want to call it. This card says you can Counterblast 1, bind this unit, and choose an order from your drop and put it into your hand, which is really useful because it binds itself, and you can pick up whatever you want, and then you're kind of ready to go. In case you're in really bad situations where you really need an order and you draw into this, you're like, hallelujah, it's in your drop, guess what? You can just, call it back out. With Zorga, like, you just kind of have ways around just getting to this if you need to. And like I said, in case your opponent is really not letting this hit, this is like your option 2. You can make all 3 of these abduction. I personally like having the 2 and 1. I do think sometimes this definitely will save you an entire turn. Like, you'll be in a situation where you literally have nothing. Your opponent denied you this, you didn't draw into another order, and then you just use this, and now you can alchemagic. It's that easy, it's that simple, and hallelujah. So that's pretty much that. And then the trigger, actually I will talk about the triggers. I'll talk about the orders first. So I'm gonna put them over here. So I still run 3 of the GDR. I really want to push this to 4, but it's just really hard. This would probably be the Zorga. I'm not gonna lie. If I could cut back 1 for this. That's just how important this card still is. It literally just gives 10k to your front row, but 10k to your front row is really important. If you have back row boosters, you can put on the boosters that makes these dragons still useful, because yes, just keep something in mind. If you alchemagic, the 10k does not go on the dragons. It goes on anything else but the dragons, and the dragons come out after your alchemagic. Similar that these both go into standby at the same time. So like the secondary skill activates after your alchemagic, and so does this. So these activate at the same time. So keep in mind you can bounce and call a dragon, or call a dragon and then bounce, whatever you want to do, but just keep in mind the alchemagic happens first, which means you have to put the 10k down, and then you can do what you want. There are kind of some ways around this a little bit, but just keep in mind that's actually one of the reasons why I'm running it at 3. There are some situations where I just don't need to get the 10k right this second, and I'll just do something else. However, the 10k is really nice. It's literally a persona. It's a pseudo persona ride, and it's just still that important. So you do you, but I recommend 4. I'm right now testing with 3 because of just space issues, but 4 is really nice too. And then next I have a ton of 1-ups. So this is where kind of like I run like a little rainbow type of order situation going on. So first I'm going to start with kind of the easiest one to explain. This is the walls melt in the sound of rain. This is literally regurgitation, except it's not. It's just easier regurgitation. It's a little less good, but it doesn't involve a counterblast or soul blast. So as long as your opponent has something they can retire on their board, this just activates. It's free. You don't have to rely on anything. You don't have to rely on your soul. You don't have to rely on anything for this card to activate, aside from your opponent having a rear guard, which usually they will. So this is just super easy, and you don't have to always go into it. You can just kind of let it exist and do its thing, and it just works. Next, I run the Death Inviting Black Magic. This is your Pot of Greed. It says you counterblast 4, and then you pretty much draw 2 cards. Now, for every card you have bound, you pretty much do 1 less. So if you have 4 cards bound, it's pretty much free. This card can definitely be very beneficial, and sometimes this is like, again, like you pick the situation, you see what's going on, and you kind of go based off of it. If you hit your Vices early, your abductions or whatever, whatever, this card becomes freer faster if your opponent lets them hit, you know, if you see these earlier, you know, all this stuff. So this can actually be very useful early on. Sometimes you see, sometimes you don't. But that's the point. Because I'm running all these 1-ofs, I have options off of Shadow Cloak, right? So that's kind of the point of it. Next, I run the Blitz order. This is the Fine Drink of Abolishment for Sins. This is that defensive card I was talking about earlier. Soul Blast, draw a card. Your one of your units gets 5k for every single thing bound, and in your drop, that is a different card name for all your orders. Very nice card. Again, since I'm running all these different 1-ofs, this card just gets huge. It can go all the way to 40k, 45k. I've seen this number hit insane. The draw is probably the most important part. The fact that you just Soul Blast a draw card is just nuts. It's literally an Orphis type of order, but in a Zorga type of deck. It's great. I love it. Next, I run Tearful Malice. This card has finally found its home. Like, it's been kind of weird every now and then, but it's finally found its home. Now, you might be wondering, why in the world would you want to run Tearful Malice? You have to retire 2 cards, draw a card, put this card to Soul and Soul Charge. Now, keep in mind, this card has always been good. It just hasn't been in the right time frame. If you think about it, a draw, a Soul Charge, and a counter charge in one card is actually insanely good. You literally get 3 resources out of 1 card. Now, why is this useful? The reason why this is useful is when you call your dragons off of Alchemagic, the next turn that you start again, that 10k and crit is gone. So, but you usually call 2 every turn, right? Because you call every 2 every turn, you can use your Alchemagic to retire the same 2 dragons and then call them back out and get the new fresh of 10k and crit on them for literally nothing. You lose nothing out of it. So this double retire is costless, essentially. So this becomes a costless type of card. On top of the fact it's getting you a draw, a Soul Charge, and a counter charge. It's actually crazy. And then if you have a dog, they have a Shadow Cloak out on the board. I mean, you can Soul Blast the same order you put into Soul and then grab something from your board and bring back to hand. You can even bring back the dog. So something to keep in mind, this combination works extremely well. Another costless card is discard in order to play this, and you get triple drive to your Vanguard, which is really, really good. It sounds too good on paper, but it's actually good. So sometimes you'll be in situations where you don't have anything in your drop. So you really need cards in your drop. Like, say you Alchemagic exactly like 1 card in your drop, and this will be your other one, so you don't have anything in your drop for next turn. This lets you set up your next Alchemagic, essentially. On top of the fact that you get a triple drive, so you're discarding an order to potentially pressure your opponent and also go into just other better situations. There are some people that are currently running this at like pretty much max, and they're trying to push this as much as possible every turn. I think the hardest part about this is the fact that you have to have an order in hand, so this condition won't always activate, but it is a triple drive, and triple drives are nice. You can do this on your grade 2 turn as well if you really want to push early. It does work. You can have a double drive. You can be a Blaster Dark player in a Zorga deck if that's what you're feeling today. So Body Condensation, this card is still amazing. I played at 1. It's a free unit to the board. You can Soul Blast stuff that you may want to just call back out. You can Soul Blast this and get it back. You can Soul Blast this, get it back out. Overcoming the Unnatural Death. This is Counterblast 1. You pretty much return 2 orders from the drop put into your hand. It's really great. It's free. It's useful. You can cycle a little bit with it. It's great. And then last but not least, I run 1 Wild Intelligence. You guys know me in Wild Intelligence. I've been playing this card literally since set 2. I have yet to drop this card. I still think it's a great card. This card is amazing. In this deck, so this deck really is pretty good. The only issue is that sometimes if you don't see your dog, you kind of just lose. Mainly, it's kind of like here. If you don't see this side right here, if you just don't see these 2 cards fast enough, you are put in a very bad situation. This card allows you to mill 3 cards, so it kind of gets to your condition a little bit faster. I have had games where I don't see a single dog, and I lose off of it. That's actually why I put the Wild Intelligence back in. I actually didn't have it in here. This was a Ghost Chase for a while. But the reason why I did that is because you really, really, really need to see these. Also, you may want to start wanting to see these at some point. If you don't, you're in big trouble. And sometimes you may not even see an order at all, especially with Shadow Cloak, so at least this will help you mill something. As long as you don't mill 3 triggers, it's at least somewhat useful. Now granted, you might mill 3 triggers, but that means you're also closer potentially to an order, to a Zorga, to a roaming Prison Dragon, whatever. This deck, you really have to heavy mulligan for an order and for these, because these will literally carry you. Without these, you are in very big trouble. And if you don't see your orders fast enough, you're also in trouble. So that's why this really helps. The minute you see one of these, you're pretty much good, because you can, put an order into your drop just by placing this from hand. So that's just kind of how I feel. Anyway, and then triggers are kind of like whatever right now. So I'm running like 1 over trigger, I'm running 4 heals, and then I'm running 4 fronts right now. So there's the 4 fronts, and then I'm running 7 crits, 4 of the soul charge crits, and then 3 of the regular crits. I do think the soul charge crits are very useful in this deck. The rest is kind of like whatever. The fronts, I'm kind of iffy about the fronts if I want to have 3 front or 4 front. The reason why I think the fronts are kind of useful, it makes the dragons bigger, so that's kind of why I've been running the fronts. Experiment. I mean, I'm a little sus about running draws, just mainly because draw can just be closer to deck out, but draws are nice too because it gets you closer to just seeing your pieces, so you can experiment. Some people are running rainbow where they pretty much cut these out and these become draws, so they'll cut 3 of the crits out and make them into draws and all that stuff. So you can do that if that's what you're kind of into. If you're into that type of style, that is definitely an approach you could do. But yeah, that's pretty much the deck. That's where I'm at right now. As you can tell, it's very control focused. I have all my options and I pick my option depending on the situation I'm in. Opponent is trying to kill me. Maybe I gotta get some draw. Maybe there's something on their board I want to kill, then I can retire. Oh no, guard restrict. I go into this. Oh gosh, I really need these out. I go into this. Oh man, I really need some orders. I go into this. Oh crap, maybe I need to revive some more units. Go into this. Oh, triple drive would be really nice right now. Go into this. Oh man, I really need to mill. Go into this. Ooh, I could really use a persona right now. Go into this. You know what I mean? You notice that I mentioned something different for every single thing I brought up. Like every one of these cards does something different for the game plan. So depending on what's going on, you go into these. I love it. It's really, really fun. I don't know on the power level yet. I haven't taken this for the locals yet. And part of the reason why I'm doing this is because this is a really, really, really hard deck to pilot. This is one of the hardest decks to pilot in Overdress right now. There is just so many different ways that you can build Zorga that it's really hard to say which one build is the correct way, because there's just a lot of different variants, a lot of different approaches. But anyway, let's go back. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hope it helps you in your Zorga deck building. Anyway, peace out. Stay tuned for a community deck logs worth of Zorga deck profiles, all that stuff, a bunch of different decks. We're going to examine them. If I have a lot of success with my current deck, you will probably see a full deck profile. That's a big if I take this enough times, or decide to play it out with this deck. Just stay tuned for that. On that, guys, I'm gonna head out. I'm gonna peace out. I'm gonna say my das vidanya. I'll see you guys next time. Thank you for all the support. Thank you for being awesome, and yeah, stay tuned. Peace out. Das vidanya. Bye!